The platypus is interesting. As a monotreme mammal, it is one of the two surviving members of an ancient lineage, which gives us a window into what primitive mammals look like. And we can see in the following videos that they are a combination of what we consider mammalian traits listed in blue, but also in red, traits which more advanced live birth or therian mammals do not possess, but which may be more typical of the reptilian ancestors of mammals. And so the platypus helps give us insight into the gradual evolution of the mammalian form, showing us which features in blue were already present in their lineage at the point at which it diverged from the therians, and which traits in red still had the ancestral primitive form. So while the platypus has a number of derived features of the skeletal system, which modern reptiles do not have, but which mammals do, there are also some primitive features, such as the lack of a postorbital process of the frontal bone, the lack of sinuses, which the eutherians possess, the small part of the brain case composed by the temporal bone. The pectoral girdle is primitive, retaining reptilian characters such as an extracoracoid bone, a separate interclavicle, and the scapula lacks the spine, which we see in the therian mammals. This pattern is seen throughout the body. So the platypus certainly has aspects of the cardiovascular lymphatic system typical of other mammals, which are not found in modern reptiles. The platypus lacks true lymph nodes and has a primitive histological organization of the thymus. In the platypus, the single thyroid cartilage of the therian mammals is represented by two unfused cartilages. They are warm-blooded, but their body temperature is cooler, and they don't regulate it in the same way. So, for example, the platypus is not regulating its temperature to always be the same when it is cold outside or when the platypus is inactive. The platypus and echidna are mammals, a group which is named for the mammary glands, which provides milk for their young offspring. However, these monotremes lack nipples, so while they secrete milk, mammary glands are modified sweat glands, so essentially they sweat milk. The young lick it off of tufts of hair. In the nervous system, monotremes possess a corticospinal tract to give voluntary control over muscles, but it only reaches the neck region of the spinal cord. In the therians, it will go farther inferiorly. There are some parts of the brain of therians lacking in the platypus, and in the platypus there is the retention of some reptilian areas of the brain. The cerebrum is smooth rather than having the wrinkled form. The left and right halves of the cerebral cortex are not connected by a corpus callosum, and the eye retains a primitive nictitating membrane, which we observe in reptiles. There are certainly primitive aspects to the urinary and reproductive systems. The platypus retains mesonephric ducts after birth. The ureters have a primitive entrance into the bladder. The reproductive system has an endometrium in the uterus, which doesn't cyclically shed the way that it does in therians. The penis is retained within the cloaca, as in many reptiles. There is no scrotum for the testes to descend into. Gender is not determined by X and Y chromosomes. Instead, they have a very unusual and complex system of 5 pairs of chromosomes, which are either X's, XX combinations or XY combinations. They lack the prostate gland and seminal vesicles that therian males possess, but perhaps the two most defining features are: one, instead of giving live birth, the embryos develop in eggs which will hatch outside the female's body. So ancestral reptiles laid eggs, and this lineage of mammals, the platypus and the echidna, continue to lay eggs. So live birth evolved after the point at which this lineage diverged from that of the therians. Also, the term monotreme literally means one opening. On their underside, they do not have separate openings for the urinary, digestive, and reproductive tracts. So they do not have a separate urethra, anus, and vagina. Instead, they have a cloaca, a single opening into which the urinary, digestive, and reproductive tracts empty into. This is typical of reptiles, amphibians, and fish. And so while the platypus, like the echidna, are mammals, they possess many traits which we associate with reptiles instead, because we are so familiar with the live birth or therian mammals that we assume their features are the features of mammals, but actually many of the therian mammal features evolved after the lineage of monotreme mammals diverged from theirs.